I am one of Didi Ma Shivani's disciples, Sadhak Devashish. I will be reading a few parts written by Didi Ma in this video as well. We have recently received the following question. I have followed traditional yoga all my life. I find it very hard to accommodate some of the tenets of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's supramental mentioned in your previous videos. I also love my guru and do not see anyone taking his place. And yet I wonder, what if supramental is just as valid as our yoga? Would I not be hampering my own path by rejecting it outright?
Your total honesty with yourself and toward yoga is commendable. Let's explore the conflicts you are feeling together. Please understand that traditional yoga is just as great as the supramental yoga. With traditional, one becomes identified with Brahma, cosmic divine, while in supramental, you go a few steps further by divinizing your physical body as well, consequently overcoming decay of the body and death. When dealing with this conflict, I suggest considering what Sri Aurobindo has always maintained. Nothing has to be rejected, all has to be raised to the levels of the divine consciousness. While practicing supramental, the mother came to a point where the organ heart in her physical body was replaced by a circularly moving light. Similarly, as one continues practicing, in time the entire human body will go through a drastic transformation that we cannot imagine at this point. One can still be dedicated to one's guru, yet open to more dimensions of the same spirituality. We notice progress and advancement in just about any field, science, technology, economics, etc. Then why not in spirituality? I have always imagined divine to be constantly growing within itself, surpassing its previous echelon. And why shouldn't it, when one of its aspects is to be infinite? If I were to describe one of my experiences of divine infinity, either you may not believe me or even think something has gone wrong with her head. Such experiences are very difficult to put into words. If I tell you that I actually experienced the infinity of the divine, which was in constant motion within itself, and yet at the same time was totally immobile, would you not think I'm crazy or something similar? The reach of the human mind tends to be very limited. It typically doesn't have the elasticity to accept two opposite yet simultaneous truths, such as movement and motionlessness happening at the same time. Yet I know with my entire being what I saw and experienced. It was not imagination, it was actually happening. I was the seer. I existed though without any physical or subtle bodies either. Was in a state of perfect knowing, was totally conscious, and remembered every detail of the experience after it was over.
When this experience was related to Avdhut Babaji, in his divine perception, he totally believed and understood it too by nodding his head gingerly. Mother and Sri Aurobindo had scores of such beyond-mind experiences. As a matter of fact, real spirituality happens when the mind is left far behind. A practitioner must at some point transcend the mind. It is only then some glimpses of the divine can be had, which are almost impossible to put into words because words also live in the domain of the mind. One can try to give a garb of words to multidimensional experiences in an effort to make them lucid to the world. However, they fall short every time. So much gets lost in this attempt to translate into the language the human mind can somewhat grasp. the shadow of mental disbelief still hangs over it. Traditional yoga speaks of the heart chakra. One can concentrate on an inch-long tip of a flame within the heart region, slightly to your right side, and chant your mantram if you have been initiated into one. Daily concentration and repetition of a powerful mantram will bring your inner divine being to the fore, which is also called the psychic being. This practice is one of the great beginnings of spirituality. With this divine instrument, one becomes capable of calling the supramental Shakti to start the transformation of the being.
In Mother's case, she was in France when an Indian person had first described to her that in all humans, a part of the divine resided behind the heart. Soon she started to concentrate on it for many hours of her day. She became so immersed in it that once while crossing a busy street, she remained so concentrated on this region that she failed to notice the traffic signals and continued to walk in a deep state. The cars were rushing past her back and forth. Suddenly she was stopped for some unknown reason, narrowly missing the passing car by just inches. She later told her disciples that her psychic had made her pause involuntarily. Born in France and raised by an atheist mother, she didn't use any religious methods. It was purely by the force of concentration, and in her case, an almost constant flow of concentration, she was able to come in touch with her soul within. A few years later, she met an accomplished occultist, under whose aegis she learned and practiced the most difficult feats of the occult. Theon, her teacher, called the inner divine soul by the name of psychic being, was adopted by Aurobindo readily later when she met him and narrated to him all she had learned from Theon. For a long time in Aurobindo ashram, no mantram was ever imparted to anyone. Disciples simply concentrated on various points of awakening in the body, accompanied by Mother and Aurobindo's force. However, as she became involved with supramental, she realized that the traditional method of repeating the mantram actually provided a great deal of pure space around a being that could not be easily breached by disturbing external forces. It also expedited the process of transformation. As a result, a mantram emerged from within her, Om Namo Bhagavate, meaning I surrender to the Supreme, which she recited unceasingly, mostly inwardly, at times overtly as well. People interested in inviting the supramental use the same mantram to this day. Om Namo Bhagavate, 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 Om Namo Bhagavate.